This is the most sought after fish in the ocean. Known for their incredible flavor and fattiness, the bluefin tuna is considered by many to not only be the strongest fighting fish in the ocean,
Gonna work out? Shut up!
but also one of the tastiest. Here in the Atlantic, bluefin tuna can get big, like over 500 pounds big. And every year, tuna fishermen go out looking for these giant fish that can make them thousands of dollars. But you've also probably heard at some point in your life that bluefin tuna are endangered.
There was a lot of concern. 2005 to 2007 would be arguably the worst year for the bluefin in New England. There was very little food, there was very few fish. In the mid-2000s, the CPUE was very high, which means it took a lot of effort to catch a fish. We were not protecting the forage species, the feed. The allowance of the midwater trawlers basically eliminating too many herring, they were catching too many mackerel. So what was happening was these fish would come into our waters in the spring, find no feed, and they would continue on to Nova Scotia and PEI, where they have a much more controlled fishery for mackerel and herring. Where does that bring us now? Regulations have changed. Our waters now have a lot more forage. Now there's so many fish around. The bluefin tuna is definitely not endangered. It's a huge success story.
Now that we know Atlantic bluefin tuna are not endangered, it was time to go catch them. And Bobby here, who already smashed a cheese stick, was on to his second snack, an entire pickle.
What you eating?
Bobby here has never caught a tuna before, so our goal was to get him his very first one.
So we're only still about 10 miles out from tuna grounds, but we're already seeing tuna blow up all around us. So it's, oh, right there, really promising.
We had caught sight of some whales, which is a very good sign for tuna fishermen. Whales, like tuna, are looking for forage, bait fish like mackerel, herring, and menhaden. The only difference is, a whale is freaking enormous. So if you find a whale, you'll probably find the bait, and if you find the bait, you'll find the tuna. And sure enough, there was a big school of bluefin tuna circling right where these two whales dove, all hoping to bum a free bait fish meal. So Cam decided to stop the boat and drop a jig down. And on Cam's very first drop, he found a fish.
There's fish. Oh my gosh. There we are. We pulled up, thought I marked something on the finder, dropped down, and I don't think I made it to the bottom, if I'm being honest.
Now, if you're a fisherman, you know exactly what that sound is. But if you're unfamiliar to fishing, that is called the drag. In order for this fish to take back line, it has to rotate the entire spool. And there are washers in the reel that can apply more friction as the reel spins, just like disc brakes on a bicycle.
My reel's hot.
Spinning reels like this one can apply 20, 30, and even 40 pounds of friction in order to spin the reel. Meaning in order for the fish to take back line, it has to apply at least that much force in order to spin the reel. In other words, in order to do something like this, it has to fight pretty freaking hard. But I'll let you in on a little secret. YouTubers and people on TV deliberately loosen their drag sometimes to make it look like the fish is fighting really hard.
Cam, is that YouTube drag or real drag?
My right arm will tell you right now, that's real drag.
We don't do YouTube drag around here, guys.
But let's not forget why we're here. We're trying to put Bobby on his very first bluefin tuna.
Hey, yo, Bobby.
Yeah.
Wanna fight a fish?
Why don't I save it for my own fish?
Bobby, that's not spin tuna fishing, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay.
Haven't killed it yet.
Yeah, there ain't everything. And as long as you go fast, I smoke it.
You ready?
Yep.
So Bobby took the rod and proceeded to have a tug of war with the hardest fighting fish he's ever encountered in his life.
How's he feel, Bobby? 5-pounder?
Bobby, about to get a PB smallmouth right here.
Smallmouth or largemouth?
It's fighting like a small. It's hidden in the loins right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta move the boys to one side.
My legs are shaking. Color. I saw him for a second.
Yeah, he's here.
Eventually, Bobby got too tired, so I tapped in to give the tuna some gas. And at long last we had the fish directly under the boat, where it started to swim in big circles, which means the fight was coming close to an end. The fish made one more big maneuver by swimming to the stern of the boat, but it was pretty much out of energy. So I passed the rod off to Cam, who put the finishing touches on this fish and hauled him to the surface, where Bobby and I got ready with gaffs. But right when we were about to gaff the fish, Bobby made a serious mistake.
Hold on. Bobby. Fix that, Bobby. You gotta screw that back on, quick. I don't care about you gaffing. Okay, just worry about that. Do it right.
Bobby had kicked off the hose connecting to the live well, which meant there was now ocean water pouring into the boat. And all Bobby had to do was reconnect the hose. But of course, everything is harder when you have a tuna at the end of the line, and everybody's standing around waiting for you to finish so they can land the fish.
Did you get it or no?
I mean, it's tightened on there, but
Bobby, hold the rod.
He's got it.
Finally, we were ready to gaff the tuna and bring it into the boat.
You ready? Yep. Right in the head, go. Mike. Okay. All right, Bobby. Nope. Can you see your gap, Bobby? Yep. You got the tongue, so come on.
You gonna wrap him?
Unless you just want to look him right in.
I think we can
Hey,
lift
Mike,
him.
you get a better headshot. You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Watch out for the hose. There you go. Yeah! Yeah, buddy! Yeah, buddy!
At long last, we had finally caught Bobby his first bluefin tuna, and he was stoked.
55, 56.
At 56 inches, this tuna was considered a recreational fish, not a commercial fish. Meaning we could keep the fish for our own personal use, but we could not sell the fish. In order for a bluefin tuna to be commercial size, it has to be 73 inches and above. So although this guy was not sellable, he was going to be delicious when we cooked him up for dinner later.
I'm sorry, Bozzy.
You still haven't returned Boz's knife?
Well, no, but...
One of the first things you gotta do when you catch a big tuna like this is to get rid of all the blood. I say this in every single video, but when a fish is fighting, it's circulating all kinds of lactic acid and stress hormones throughout the bloodstream. These things ultimately contribute to the fish decomposing faster. So removing the blood can extend the fish's shelf life, and for tuna, it can improve the quality of the meat.
It'll still work to bleed fish.
We were considering going home, but there was just one problem. Bobby was not yet satisfied because he wanted to catch a fish all by himself, meaning he did not want to pass the rod off a single time. And sure enough, Bobby hooked up on his second tuna, and Cam hooked up on one right after him.
It'll be an early day. I'm beat.
yeah, someone get the net.
Bobby, how are we feeling?
Right now, this fish is kicking my ass. Holy, not gonna swear. I want to get undressed right now.
Do you want me to take the rod and you can get undressed?
I want to get down to my
To your skivvies?
to my birthday suit.
Yeah. You want to fight a tuna naked? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Cam's fish eventually broke off, but that happens sometimes when you're fighting bluefin tuna. Bobby's fish was still on, but he was quickly running out of energy and it began to show.
Gonna work out?
Shut up.
You want to tap in?
He wants to do it by himself.
I want this fish myself.
I already asked. He said it's a no both time.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes that's just not in the cards. You know, when I was a kid, I always wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. thought this was like the coolest when I was like 14.
This is like peak fishing.
Yeah. Now I'm just like, I just want to go. I just want July 1st so I can go commercial sea bass. He ain't taking drag. You can gain on him. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
All right, tap in.
Got it. I got you, Bobby. Good. Oh yeah.
Actually, you know what I should do? I should keep that thing up and throw like 18 Ks on the rock.
This is a big one.
You want to tap back in?
We're almost at leader, Bobby. So if you want, no, if you want it, now's the time. You can get the last end of the fight. Why do you think he's gonna freak out?
We're not careful.
After a long fight, we finally started to see some color on this tuna. And no surprise, it was definitely bigger than the first fish that we caught.
Back up.
After a long fight, we finally got the tuna to the side of the boat. But there was just one problem. We couldn't just gaff this fish in the head like we did the first one. Because we're recreationally fishing for bluefin tuna, we're only allowed to keep 2 fish between 27 and 47 inches, or 1 fish between 47 and 73 inches. And since we had already kept that fish from earlier that was in the mid-50s, we had caught our limit of bluefin tuna for the day, which means this fish had to be released as safely as possible. And the fact that this fish was fighting tooth and nail to the very end did not make that easier.
He's not done.
Even though it's way easier to just gaff the tuna in the head, get your hook out, and throw him back, it's not the right thing to do. Like Tyler said earlier, bluefin tuna aren't endangered, but the reason for that is good fisheries management and a collective international effort to preserve the resource. And that includes carefully releasing a bluefin tuna, even when it's inconvenient to do so. Cam uses his small gaff to pierce just the edge of the upper lip of the bluefin. Then he puts the boat into gear and swims the tuna so water rushes into its gills. Eventually, the tuna starts to kick back to life, first by moving its mouth and gill plate, and then by moving its tail. So Cam unhooks the gaff and the tuna swims down to hopefully one day grow to the size of a commercial fish.
Bobby, what do you think about your first tuna?
They fight harder than I thought. I thought it was Cam overreacting, but no, they do fight.
Cam does overreact. So I don't blame you for making that assumption.
Cut away. Do the cutaway.
Ah, you gotta be f***ing me. Wait, Tyler, tuna!
What?
When do I overreact?
What do you mean?
Before we could head home, we first had to ice down the tuna, which required a knife, and since Cam snapped the first one, we borrowed a knife from our buddy Riley, who was a real homie for being willing to lend us his nice one. Icing down a tuna is a little more complex than your average fish. You first have to take off the gill plate and then remove the gills, which allows you to pull the guts out from inside the cavity. Once the guts are removed, that means the tuna cavity is completely hollow, so you dump ice into the hole you just made and fill it with as many ice cubes as you possibly can. The reason why you have to ice the inside of the tuna as well is because they can fight so hard that they raise their internal body temperature to the point where they're actually cooking themselves from the inside out. So icing the inside and the outside is a great way to cool that tuna down so the meat stays nice and fresh. But Bobby couldn't wait until we got home and wanted to try some tuna right away.
Cram raw.
You don't like it?
Not raw.
I guess raw tuna is not for Bobby, but wait till you see what we have him eat later. We started running home, and I guess Bobby got so tired fighting those tuna that he took a nap at the bow of the boat. And somehow the kids stayed asleep for an entire 20-mile ride back to shore, which to me is more impressive than anything else. Nothing seemed to be able to wake Bobby up until we got back to the dock, and Cam gave it a nice, gentle bump. Now that Bobby was finally awake, we headed back to Cam's place where we cut up our fish. Bobby wanted the tail so he could mount it as a souvenir, given the fact that it was his first ever bluefin tuna.
We'll cut that tail off for the transfer.
No, Bobby, you gotta suck out the spine juice from that.
They actually do.
That little jelly.
No, I'm not doing that.
You gotta do it, bro.
Says who?
It's tradition. You just gotta loosen it and then suck it out. So use your nail to like make it loose.
Is this just bone marrow?
It's just bone marrow. It's
Oh,
tuna
Cam,
bone
you've
marrow.
had
It's a
bone marrow
delicacy.
before.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I've had dog bone marrow. Nah.
Did you know that like it's considered like a delicacy?
Yeah, well,
Like a lot of
Not in transfers.
not in America.
not in Taunton.
So Cam got to work loining this tuna up, and before the internet haters come out saying how Cam did a bad job cutting, just wait till you see what I do with the skeleton. Because with fish this high end, it would be stupid to throw any of it away. But Bobby was feeling adventurous, and despite the fact that he hated the piece of tuna that we ate on the boat, he wanted to try some right off the loin. And needless to say, sometimes the people who are responsible for catching the fish don't always enjoy eating it. Me, on the other hand, I absolutely love tuna.
I mean, just
Could use a little salt pepper.
super good. These Taunton kids were raised on good old high fructose corn syrup and hot dogs and burgers.
Hey, we had meatloaf.
Linguiça patties.
Oh, don't even get me going on the linguiça patties.
So Cam and Bobby divided up the tuna loins to give to family and friends, and I took all the scraps.
Alright guys, we made it back home. I'm gonna show you how to not throw away precious bluefin tuna meat.
Let's start picking at this spine. Look at all that meat. I mean, there's tons of meat left on the spine. Now, Kim was in a rush, so he kind of left behind a lot of tuna meat, but even the absolute best tuna cutting job leaves behind a bunch of meat on the spine, which you can scrape off with a spoon like this. All right, so all of this is good meat. Like, that's what it's supposed to look like when you get all the meat off. So, like, all of this can be scraped, see? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take the spoon and just scrape. Look at that. Look at that. All of that tuna meat that otherwise would just be thrown away, you can save. And it really adds up. I mean, that's just one pass of the spoon. That's like 2 bites right there.
So what are you making with this?
You can make poke, you can make tartare, you can make ceviche, like little bits like this. You're not gonna make a steak, obviously, but there's so many other ways to prepare it other than just a slab of grilled meat, you know? So diversify your palate, don't waste meat, try new things. After we scraped the rack, we moved on to the head of the tuna. This is the collar of the tuna. It's a much more trendy cut of meat now. People are becoming more aware of how good it is. All the more reason that we should save it. Should go in with this cleaver. Cut right up to that throat. And then cut him through the side. And we're loose at the bottom. And that is our tuna collar. After separating the collar on the other side of the head, I laid out all the meat that we saved from the skeleton that would otherwise just be thrown away. Alright guys, so this is what we're left with. Like nice lean chunks of meat with no connective tissue. These two sections, which is a combination of chunks of meat and then kind of scraped meat. And these are sections that have more connective tissue in them but are mostly meat. And lastly, we have the collars here. And let me show you a super easy way to cook tuna collars, or really collars of any fish the next time you have some. Take your tuna collar skin side down and add some oil and salt. Then all you gotta do is throw it under the broiler for 10 to 20 minutes depending on how big your fish collar is. And it's literally just that easy. The tuna should be nicely browned and you can serve it with some lemon, some soy sauce, whatever you want. We chose to supplement it with a lazy day of takeout dinner and everybody absolutely loved it. Especially my nephew who's never really had tuna like this before. What do you think, Tio?
Good.
Good?
Yummy.